Welcome to Toy-polloi.
Hello and welcome to another video from toy-polloi. Now, if you've watched some of my recent videos, you'll have seen my restoration of this vintage Action Man sailor. And at the end of that, it turned from a pretty rough and ready, sort of very beaten up Action Man to what you see here, which is a pretty nice complete sailor. Now, in the last couple of weeks, I've received a very kind donation of parts from Gary Newton, and I've actually got some more bits that I can do to this to finish it off even more. Although this is already a sort of finished sailor, there are some other accessories that you could get from the Navy attack set that I wanted to have with this. So let's start looking at those, and we can swap out some of the bits that I've got that are better than what was on this, and there's a couple of things that we need to fix. First up, one thing that does need changing is the little flashlight that he has in his hand. If I take this flashlight out, keeping it stood up, you can see that there's actually something a little bit odd about this flashlight. It looks like it's been melted and distorted. Now, this was how it was given to me, but it looks a little bit weird. So one of the things that was in the big donation of pieces that I got was this flashlight, and as you can see, it's a much more normal shape. I'm not quite sure what happened to this one, but it looks like it's a bit melted or something, or just a moulding error, so I'm going to replace it for this one. And the other thing that this guy was missing was boots. The boots that are on here are actually a mismatched pair. You can see that they have different soles, so I have a pair of matching boots here which I'm going to swap out. These are things that will just make him look a little bit more complete and a little bit more finished off. They're nice things to do, but they're not necessarily things that were needed in the first part of this restoration. Another part of the Navy attack set is this white belt, and I actually thought this would be quite nice to have on underneath the life vest that he's got on. And again, this was one that's been donated to me, and as you can see, it's all complete. It's a little bit on the grubby side. The white belt is a little bit yellowed, so I wanted to clean this. Now, these are a little bit fiddly to take apart because they have this little sort of catch on the end, so it's just a little bit of a fiddly job to push this little, I don't know what you call it, it's just a sort of a ring that holds the belt together. But once you've unhooked that end there, we can then start taking this apart, and we should be able to take off all of the plastic bits. I've got a screwdriver here just to help push some of these through the end of the buckle. I should be able to remove this buckle without bending it too much. I think that should have got it. No, still a little bit more fiddly. There we go, and now I can remove all of these sort of gun, I don't know what these are, sort of ammo pouch type things off the end, and then we can go about cleaning and trying to make the actual belt a little bit whiter. Again, I'm just going to use my screwdriver here just to ease the belt part through. Like so. So there we have all the bits off, and we're just left with the belt. It's still got one bit of metal at the end, but that should be fine. So what we're going to do to clean this is I have a mug here of sort of warm water, and we're going to use one of these Denture cleaning tablets. Now, these are designed for cleaning false teeth, but they're very good for cleaning bits of white fabric like this because they have a gentle sort of bleaching action to them. So if I take one out, you can see it's just a sort of, looks a bit like a sweet, but it's not. Don't ever eat these. I'm going to drop this into the water, and then I'm going to drop the tablet in, and we'll leave that in there for about 30 minutes. And while that's doing its job, we'll get on with fixing another part of this toy. As you can see here, I have the sailor wearing the sort of traditional sailor's hat, but one of the Navy attack sets comes with a sort of armoured helmet, as you can see here, and I actually thought this would look a little bit nicer to have on the figure. And again, this was one that's been donated to me, so you can see he should wear a hat like that. I just think that sort of suits the outfit a little bit better. Now, this is missing a strap. It should have a strap that goes between these 2 points here, which is made of this 3mm sort of elastic. You can buy this elastic on eBay or from sort of haberdasher's shop. It's pretty cheap. I bought a few meters for not a great deal of money that I've used on some other fixes. And the normal hats, if I bring in another one here, has a little latch on the end which hooks into the sort of little sort of section on the side of the helmet. So that's all missing on this one, but as you can see here, I have another hat, and I'm going to use this end piece as a little donor sort of latch, and I'm going to cut this one off, and then it's going to require a little bit of sewing just to sew the two bits in, because if you see here again, I'll show you on this one, you can see the elastic is sewn at both ends. So I'm just going to quickly sew that together, put a tiny bit of elastic on so that will hold onto his head quite nicely. So I've now got everything ready. I've got a bit of black cotton on a needle here, and I've got a small length of the elastic. Now the latch normally goes on, as you're looking at the front of the helmet, it will go on the left hand side, so I've got to thread the normal sort of end in that we need to sew in place onto the other side. Now this is a little bit fiddly to do. You can just push the elastic in, and I'm going to use the end of the needle to gently just pull the elastic through like so. See, it's not so hard. I can now just sew this together. Again, it's not such a fiddly job, but it does take a little bit of practice if you're not used to sewing. So I've now got my needle and thread, and I'll just sew this end together here, like so. Now that I've got one side sewn in place, we can put it onto the figure and work out how much we need to sort of make it taut and fit under his chin. So we need about that much, that way it holds in place. So I'm just going to hold that in my hand like so, and that's where we're going to sew the little catch onto. I've now put the latch onto the bit of elastic, and you've just got to make sure it's round the right way, because you want everything to sort of not be twisted when you put it onto the figure. So the elastic is nice and flat, and the latch goes so that it hooks onto the inside of the helmet, so you've got to make sure it's round that way. As you can see, that hooks in pretty well. So that is the correct position. I just now got to, again, a bit of needle and thread, which I have here. Just do a few little stitches across the elastic there, and that will hold in place quite nicely, and then we can trim off the excess once we're all done. There you go, that's the last few stitches put in. I can just trim off the bits of cotton that are sticking out, and then this bit of elastic, we don't need all of that, so I'll just trim that down to make it a little bit shorter, like so. And there we have a nice new bit of elastic on there. It should latch in place like that, so we can put that back on the figure and see how he looks. Right, off with the old hat. Here's the new hat. I've already latched it in place, so we should just be able to hook this under his chin, and that fits pretty nicely. That's looking a lot better there. And here we have the belt. It's had about half an hour in the sort of denture mixture, and I've given it a good wash in some soapy water, and as you can see, it's now looking pretty good. It's much whiter. There's still a little bit of a stain, but that's on the inside of the belt, so I'm not going to worry about that. But overall, it does look an awful lot better. And we can now go ahead and start threading all of these bits back onto it. Again, this is a little bit of a fiddly job, just because it's quite a sort of tight the mountings onto these sort of gun belt bits are pretty small, so it takes a little bit of sort of pulling and pushing to get these things through, but it's not impossible. As you can see here, you just have to sort of push everything through, and if you get a bit stuck, use a screwdriver. And again, this has to go on a certain way round. This little clip bit goes on the right hand side if you were sort of wearing this yourself, so you need to put the two sort of belt the pockets this way up and thread them round, and then we can put on the end bit at the other end. So let me just squeeze these through like so. One done, and now we've got the really quite fiddly bit of getting this bit on and the little sort of loop that the belt buckle goes into. So what we can do is we can put this first piece on like so, squeeze that through, then we'll thread through the buckle part, and again I want to get this around a particular way just because it's got a slight bend to it. Now this is probably the trickiest bit, just because you don't want to bend the bit of metal. So just pull that one through, and now there's still a bit of you can see a little bit of a fold where the original sort of fold would have been, so we can line that up, and then we've got to thread this loop back over. Again, sometimes can be a bit awkward just because you're pushing two large bits of fabric through it, but it is possible to do. Might get my screwdriver out here just to help shift that through. There we go, I think that's good enough. Now we can put this back on the figure and that should all be done. And here we have it. As you can see, it's a couple of simple fixes there, a couple of fairly easy little bits of restoration to do on some pieces that I was given. But to me this looks a lot better. This is a lot more how I wanted him to look really than with the traditional sailor's hat. I much prefer the sort of helmet that he's got here. And it's nice to have a much better lamp because that just was a little bit odd, the fact it was so distorted, and the belt adds a little bit more detail to him. So I'm really pleased with how this has come out, and I hope this video has been of interest to you, and thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching toy-polloi. Subscribe for more great videos. You can also follow toy-polloi on Twitter and Facebook.